Katamari Damacy is a series by Namco about rolling around a sticky ball that picks up and collects anything it rolls over. It's a game based around the snowball effect, where you start small and collectively pick up larger and larger objects until the location you started in is just another item in your massive collection. It's a very kinetic, satisfying gameplay loop, made even more fun by its outstanding presentation. It all comes together to what is probably my favorite Namco series. A criticism I do have with these games, though, and this isn't necessarily the game's fault, but I can find that this gameplay loop can be kind of a you've played one, you've played them all kind of deal when it comes to these games. Whether it be a home, a neighborhood, or the entire world, you can only roll around the same way in so many locations before it loses its magic a bit. Now, this series does a fantastic job of counteracting this in a number of ways. For example, the collectibles. Finding every present and cousin, or if you're really up for the challenge, every object, can make the game a lot more puzzle-like and based around exploration. On the other end of the spectrum, these games tend to be pretty short, but also encourage replaying stages to improve your score. Another solution to keeping the series fresh, and the most interesting in my opinion, is to indulge heavily in gimmick levels. Now, when I say gimmick level, I imagine that can have some negative connotations to folks, but in reality, Katamari has some of the best, most consistently fun and engaging gimmicks I've ever seen. Some of these stages, honest to God, could probably be a game in and of themselves. It could be something as simple as changing how you're scored. In the stage Friends, for example, you're graded not on size, but on how many animal friends you pick up. Or the Sumo stage, a fan favorite, where you're helping the scrawny wrestler bulk up. The kicker is only food items add to your size, and you actually need to defeat your opponent too once you're big enough. Some of these are definitely more liked than others, though even the not-so-liked ones tend to be pretty notable for being artistically bad. The Cowbear stage definitely comes to mind. This is such a troll of a level, to a point that it kind of wraps around to being kind of brilliant in my opinion. I actually have gotten the Cowbear myself. Oh my god, like I completely had to learn how to route this stage to make this work. In this video, I would like to talk a bit about, in my opinion, the most creative stage in the series. Not the most fun, mind you, or even that much of a personal favorite, but a nearly perfect concept pulled off in a flawless way. Before we talk about this stage, though, I'd like to take a bit to discuss an equally interesting stage that feels almost like a test run for why today's topic is so perfect. Charity, from We Love Katamari. Charity is a level given to you by the fundraiser. The goal of the stage is to raise money so that they can save the red pandas. You do this by rolling around the town stage, and any item you pick up, its monetary value will be added to your score. So you can probably get the gist from there. You're not scored on size or speed, but by the combined value of all items you pick up in the stage's time limit. Now, an immediate question a lot of people ask when I describe this level is, why not just pick up everything? You know, like a normal level. If everything's value is added, then going for sheer quantity should get the job done for a high score, right? Well, you'd think so, and that will get you an okay score, but it'll never get you a great one for a couple reasons. Some high-value items are easier to get when you're small, and when you get large enough, smaller items will despawn, and some extremely high-value items are tiny, like wedding rings or old coins. So essentially, you can screw yourself out of some fantastic score by picking up too much too quickly. This is probably intentional too, as a lot of low-value items also happen to be those larger, rounder shapes that increase your size significantly, like balloons, toilet paper, or bags of trash, or living things, which don't add anything because, in the king's words, life is priceless. That's really cute. Overall, I love this level, although it does have some flaws to me that hold it back a bit. For one, it reuses what is already probably the most visited map in the game. Katamari tends to recycle maps a lot, though each instance does shuffle the item placements around significantly, to a degree that it's never bothered me too much. Heck, this stage even recontextualizes some parts of this map in very interesting ways. This hill, which is the starting area of a few iterations, is now a secret area with a wedding going on. Tons of expensive stuff there, including the ring. This recess field is also turned into a flea market, a perfect location for a level like this. So yeah, it is yet another recycled map, but it at least uses its space well. Another issue is that some high-value items are pretty obnoxiously hidden. There's a couple particular items you'll just never find without a guide that are just kind of annoying. But overall, this stage is great. It's one I always enjoy playing, and I swear one I'm always learning new things about too. That's a sign of a good Katamari level to me. But with that said, let's move on to its spiritual successor. Also, before we begin, I'd love to give a shout out to my good buddy Shrimp, who recorded all of the footage I'm going to be using of this level. From both games this stage is featured in. He did a really good job collecting all this, and if I'm going to be honest, I think he took it a bit more seriously than even I'm taking this video. But I really appreciate the help, dude. I'll leave a link in the description to his own YouTube. Definitely go check out his stuff. If you're wondering why I'm not recording this footage, honestly, I just don't own the game this stage originated from. I owned Katamari Forever, which had it, though that's irrelevant as I don't have a capture card to record footage off a console for myself anyway. And something is up with my PS3 as well. This thing is a good 10 years old at this point. I should really look into getting it replaced. You'll be able to tell whose footage is on screen at any given moment by which cousin is in the corner. Kaneko is his favorite cousin and Shai is my favorite cousin, so easy way to tell that apart. Beautiful Katamari, the Xbox 360 installment, features a DLC level entitled Fancy and Schmancy. The name is insane. The stage is also featured in the base game of Katamari Forever under the name of Shopping. They just call it Shopping. The premise, like I said, feels like a spiritual successor to Charity. Every item on the map, once again, has a monetary value. And once again, this is factored into your scoring, but how it does so is flipped on its head. You start with a budget of 300,000 yen, and every item you pick up, its value is subtracted from that total. Your goal is to pick up as many items as you can before you run out of money. Your goal, essentially, is now to pick up as many cheap items as you can find. It's such a simple change, but this change is everything about how you play a stage like this. What was a mad scramble to collect every expensive item you can is suddenly a careful, methodical, explorative, almost puzzle-like experience. You gotta love this map. A pretty unique map, only used for one other time in this game. It's kind of a mall/shopping center/grocery store, which, like the flea market, is the perfect location for a level like this. There's even a food court on the side. Like with Charity, there are lots of high-value items peppered everywhere throughout this level, but with a different end goal, they're completely retextualized from high-priority items and areas to places you need to avoid. The designers clearly understand this, as they tend to put these items around tons of low-value ones in a way that makes sense, adding a lot of risk-reward to the stage. They even set up traps of them. I swear one of the spawning points puts you right in front of a ton of urchins that immediately float towards you if you get too close. It's kind of funny to put something like that right at the start. The whole seafood section is kind of hell to get through, honestly. You should be avoiding that at all cost. A thing I love about Katamari stages in general is how handcrafted they all are. For as cluttered as these maps can get, these item placements aren't randomly generated. Everything is personally placed with a purpose to either guide the player, reward the player, to punish or trick them, or even as just a fun little visual gag. I love these aisle sections where there's shelves of merchandise on either side. There's both cheap items and expensive items along them, and it's kind of fun if you're able to pick out something worth buying and just ramming right into the bundle of items, picking everything up at once. There's even stuff on the top shelves that you'll pick up too once you're big enough. Like with Charity, your size will make it harder or easier to go for different items, definitely adding to that necessity to get your routing down to a T, although I find it to be, again, better pulled off here. Beautiful is one of the next-gen Katamari, so they can fit way more stuff on screen at once, and can rely less on despawning items once you're bigger. So the routing is more about where not to run once you're too large, as opposed to the other way around. Again, flipping a lot about the stage on its head in a creative way. The top shelves also clue you in to how this stage has a surprising amount of verticality to it. You can climb up tons of stuff and take lifts to get into hidden crevices with both the good and bad items. In Forever's variant of the stage, you can make good use of the game's jump feature too. Yes, that's a thing exclusive to Forever. In all seriousness, this alone might make this version of the level more fun for some people, although it does kind of minimize some of the mapping that in like some of these lifts and some of these other mechanics that the level kind of strives on. They want you to explore every square inch of this place. And you know what definitely helps in regards to that too? The fact that this stage has no time limit. This is extremely rare for a level in the series, but it was a perfect choice for this one. You're given all the time you need to feel around, make mental notes of where items are that you can potentially come back to later, or items to avoid entirely. You have to use a lot of real-world knowledge and judgment here too. Like, everyone knows that some stuff is just way more expensive than others, and it'll lead to you prioritizing and avoiding all sorts of things. Case in point, I don't think in my life I have ever played a game and uttered the thought, oh sweet, napkins. Stuff like junk food, leaflets, toilet paper, and signage, among other things, basically anything in the double digits of yen, are perfect fodder to pick up for as good of a score as possible. The stage is weirdly educational in a way too. They obviously take a lot of liberties, and you gotta keep in mind this game came out in 2007, because, you know, inflation. But items are priced pretty accurately to how they are in real life. You might even learn a thing or two about Japanese pricing. Some stuff just costs drastically different in Japan, and will definitely catch you off guard from time to time. You know how when you ram into a wall or get lodged between obstacles, the game will knock items off of your Katamari? Happens all the time in the first game, but was since toned way down. Well, did you know that if an item is knocked off of you in this level, you will actually be refunded the money that item was worth? You know what that means? If you accidentally pick up something obscenely expensive, you can actually keep it from entirely ruining your score by knocking it off, making for, I believe, the only stage in the series where it is strategically viable to lose items. That is wild. Speaking of features you barely use, the look around camera is supremely useful here. Again, no time limit. Take your time, look around, be aware of your surroundings. It's simply fun to explore here, so make the most out of it and enjoy this amazing map. Though I will say, if you are in a bit of a rush, this stage still has you covered. Lots of Katamari stages have little variants that flip the stage stipulations around a little bit. For the most part, they don't do too much of it personally. Oh, like instead of having to reach a size goal in a certain time limit, you're instead graded on how much time it takes you to reach the same goal. Riveting, I don't know, they're just not too exciting to me. Typically I find these variants just amount to a faster slice of the level from experience, but that's taken to its extreme here. The alternate variant level of Fancy and Schmancy basically has Charity's gimmick, where you're given a time limit, and you have to rush around picking up as much stuff as you can to create the most expensive Katamari possible. This is brilliant. It isn't a mere twist or truncation of a stage, it's the exact polar opposite of the original goal. That slower, analytical gameplay style is gone. You're meant to rush now. It kind of recontextualizes everything, which I find especially brilliant. Charity teaches you to rush towards expensive items. Fancy and Schmancy teaches you to take things slow and actively avoid expensive items. And this variant is now teaching you to once again start picking up everything expensive as fast as possible. What's especially fun in this level's case is that all of the expensive items were originally traps, and you'll know where they are due to how much you attempted to avoid them originally, how much they might have caught you off guard originally, which makes this level feel kind of freeing. It's like a weight being lifted off your shoulders. It's kind of cathartic in a way. And that's Fancy and Schmancy. I'd like to emphasize again that this isn't a stage fans clamor for consistently or consider one of the best by any stretch of the imagination. but it is still extremely fun in its own right, and it's one I personally consider to be the peak of how creative this team can be in terms of level gimmick, stage design, atmosphere, and naturally evolving or contorting established norms in a super fun way. And it's a stage I think people should really appreciate more than they do. Heck, I kind of hope Beautiful Katamari or Katamari Forever get the remastered treatment someday like We Love and the original did, so a more general audience can experience this amazing level. I always like to end these videos with some miscellaneous stuff, and I don't have a lot here. One interesting oddity is that Shrimp found an item with no monetary value, a checkbook. Only living things are supposed to not have a price, so it's my belief that this was merely an oversight. Like, maybe the entire level and its items were laid out, and then they added a value to each one and just forgot this one. Also, and this is more of a nitpick, but I'm not a big fan of the theme they chose for specifically the Forever variant of this level. They chose that really high-energy song with tons of sound effects from old-school Namco games used as samples, and I don't know why they would use this song, as it's a very slow-paced level, and that choice just kind of sets the mood wrong. A rare bad music choice for this series, if I'm gonna be honest. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this little deep dive into a stage that really doesn't get the attention it deserves. Bit of a shorter video, but this is a fun little project to put together. Thanks to all my Patreon supporters, Royalblot, Sean, Trevor, Firestrike, and Great Wolf. If you love these projects, feel free to check out my Twitter and Discord, and oh, I got a Blue Sky now. A lot of people have been clamoring for that site recently, so I figured I'd make one. Not super active on there as I am on Twitter, but you know, I have one. And I will see you folks later. Thanks for watching.